and like 12 hours later, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I was like, I cannot believe of all organizations that the DOT had people in a meeting that wasn't related to the weather, you know, yeah.
If it, you know, and if it hadn't been, and everything around was still fine, so it was really just this calculated weird.
It was.
Or something. I was thinking for this. It's like all the day. Usually I love it in, but it's like, oh, it's so far.
All right.
I figure something's done.
I think he was still passing it on the tablet. We were seeing him for the next together name. She was about. And there's all the operation, but then he fell asleep. Something came up yesterday. I was like, I know he doesn't know shooting in the meeting, so I zoomed in, you know, I was like, oh, the people. Now, a great time to go and oh, it's hardly. It's every year out there. Oh, no, it's. They did. Yeah. Yeah, I would ask. All good.
I'm not gonna get my notes.
I'm voting for
I feel that might be. Yeah, exactly. Say that all. You are exactly right.
Yeah, you
Thank you very much. I'm gonna be awesome there. Senator Parker, somebody in here was gonna know this. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Adam, I was talking about something and everybody else was like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, if you break out that, I'm gonna break out my electric socks. Needed socks.
I wanted to find it like, you know, again.
Stuff. That's
I'm just excited.
We're gonna get about 5 more minutes. Yeah.
great, but it's a big ring, you know?
She reached out to me and I told her, from the post.
Thank you.
She was like, "So your photos fall down and over me." But, yeah.
Hey, hi, Henry. Nice to meet you. Henry. Yeah. Henry. Oh, yeah.
We need another man in here.
Yeah, he's looking a good way right now. What is? Where are you now? I'm speaking.
I don't know. As we go on today, but
Rachel knows how to write.
we're in for it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why did you do that? Actually, that sounds great. There, you can see.
Yeah.
I've got my jacket on, my beagle jacket on.
Yeah.
On my beagle.
It's running Baker, so it's just for me.
For the.
Right, so you're going to jail, I didn't.
When we took this together. I got there.
So now it's like, oh, I'm a little late, she's so mad. You're honest, it's a little freedom. He gets out, he's. And then he comes back. It's like, I just want to get her, but it's really a ten off, like, they'll like it. He knows. Turn on and so. Nobody's ever thought to do that. Yeah. Still, I think the mom, Will's mom wants to. So that it may have taken the animals. Like, there's at least the five. That's like. Because I was in a. Convenience store, sitting in the car waiting for you to come out. And it's like in that house, and then you have to walk. Yeah.
Someone, all right, everybody, trying to get started with introductions. There's a couple people running late, just so we have enough time for our speaker. Let's go around. Zoom, can everybody hear us okay?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, I hear Tom. I'm gonna turn up y'all's volume. Okay, so we're gonna go around, we're gonna do name, and then affiliation to drug prevention and any work that you've been doing or any work that you would like to promote that your organization or individual self is doing. Hope everybody had a good Halloween last night, really cold, ready for the holiday season. I'm Rachel, I am the Forsyth County Drug Awareness Council Director.
I'm Caroline, I'm the project coordinator for the council.
Emily Ennis, I am at Northwestern doing the substance prevention for there. Also on the bedside program. We've done multiple things this month. Probably the health classes, we're about to go to world history classes, we have some more kids in the groups and we're out there.
I'm Amy Dykes, I'm the student support coordinator at North Forsyth High School. In addition to the work that Emily's doing, we've tried to start doing some amount of campaigns again. It was something that we had gotten really far away from, so we've done an anti-vaping contest, or a flyer campaign contest. That turned out really good, and through that, we came across a couple of really good resources. The county's vetted the website called Truth Initiative, and it is anti-vaping, anti-opioids. What else is on there? There's several things on there. Anyway, they said we can use it, and there's curriculum within it and information. The one thing they haven't finished checking out is there's a text service, I guess you'd call it a service, called Ditch Vape. And they send you text messages. So I did it for 6 weeks on my phone because I wanted to see like what the students would see. And it was excellent. Like both of us, I kept showing Emily, I was like, okay, is this good? Are these good tips? Does this work well? But it's very good. So we're waiting to hear back from the county that we can advertise that. I was quite impressed actually with the texting thing. It was very good. So we had that going on. The students found those resources for us, which was awesome. And then the county has agreed that we can use it. And then for Red Ribbon Week, which is, I mean, like that's still back pretty old school, but it still exists. We've done a door decorating, like Halloween / anti-drug door decorating contest that we'll be judging, which, you know, he'll be back tomorrow. And even though those are things that, like, I know as a kid, like, you're like, is that really effective? It's at least still something that they're seeing and hearing about. And so we feel like it's better than nothing. So, you know, we've done a few things like that school-wide, and then we've got our packets out at the front for medicine disposal. That's actually been very well received. We are refilling our basket fairly frequently. I feel like people are definitely using that. And so that's been good. So anyway, we're trying to do some, and then once a month, we do a lesson, an anti-drug, some version of an anti-drug, anti-substance lesson. that Emily's been putting together that goes out to the whole school. So once a month, they're getting that message. So, and that's been specific to an actual sentence. So also, so trying to think of things to do just to keep it at kind of in their mind and, like I said, we feel like something's better than nothing. We don't expect any of it to be ultra life changing, but, at least it's out there. They know what school stands, or, the people in that, we're trying to kind of rally behind them.
I'm Ashley Dickerson. I co-chair the parent program, with Marty. I think Marty's online, for your meeting. And, pretty much we'll talk to parents anytime, anywhere, about their own recovery of, their child, suffering from substance use disorder. I will say that I would prefer to get in front of parents before they end up part of our community. To make them aware of more of the self-esteem aspects of it, and the mental health aspects of when their children are younger. However, we do take an opportunity to go in, like with Gabby and over at Gateway, and talk to the parents that children are there because of the drug offense in the school system, right? But I do post openly on social media because I find that anytime I share my story, I share it 18 to a couple hundred people. People come out of the woodwork and share their story with me. So again, my whole mission is to reduce the shame and start the dialogue. And I literally will post on social media. And the reason I want to share this is because a lady reached out to me about 2.5 weeks ago about a post that I had in February from the law. And so she went back, she saw me, she said, my daughter's starting recovery and I'd like to talk to you. She did not actually connect with me, so I'm going to reach back out with her and see how she's doing. But again, if you have any parents that suspect or that seem like they're not getting the gist of what's going on with their child, please send them our way. We've got a parent link in on the website. So we love to talk to them.
Good morning, my name is Lindsay Simpson, Student Support Facilitator for the school district here in Forsyth County. Work with our students kindergarten through 12th grade, so that's a large span. Each day is kind of a new adventure. A lot of prevention falls under my umbrella: substance use prevention, suicide prevention, and some of our mental health work. So as we're coming off of Red Ribbon Week, a lot of our schools don't necessarily call it Red Ribbon Week anymore. They align it to programs they're doing. So we have sources of strength in 13 secondary schools here in our county. And a lot of them tied this year's theme, which would be kind to your mind, to the sources of strength wheel. So the wheel can be used for our students who need those, coping skills, or having those difficult times in our life. How do we lean into those healthy activities, the positive friends, or that spirituality piece of the wheel? So there's 8 protective factors that they utilize within our school buildings. We're seeing that grow in our district. We have 13 schools right now. I've got 1 more high school interested coming on board. And we have 7 elementary schools that use sources of strength as well. So a lot of growth in those areas that we're seeing. And we got a lot of fun pictures for like Red Ribbon Week or Be Kind with your money. So just excited to be here with you guys, because usually I'm attending virtually.
Hi, my name is Madison Roberts. I'm with Brave Response, and I'm the dedicated Forsyth County advocate. Oftentimes there can be a correlation with sexual assault abuse and substance abuse. So I'm here to be a resource for any of y'all who know anyone who could use some services and to learn more.
Counselor with the Vida Community Partners, so Danielle Rihanna. Counselor with Vida, we see people with insurance and Medicaid, so we'll end compliance. Excited to go to the summit in April. Yeah, enjoy.
My name is Henry Kushner, and I'm in recovery, and I've been sober for 9 years. And
Don't say anymore.
I'll be,
You'll be like speaker.
I was just gonna give a quick 45-minute intro.
I'm Adam Miller, I'm Director of Outreach for No Longer Bound. For prevention, I mean, we're kind of more intervention, but for prevention, I'm also running teen IOPs at a Christian Counseling Center in Woodstock, which has been interesting, coming from counseling from No Longer Bound to kind of on the front end with teenagers. It's been interesting and fun. So thanks.
I'm Emily. I work at Phoenix Recovery Center. It's a drug and alcohol abuse facility. We have a detox residential in Monroe and then 2 outpatients, one in Gainesville, one in Athens. I'm also in recovery.
Hi guys, I'm Rashmi Nair. I'm currently studying social work at UGA. And I also work alongside Danielle in Avida Community Partners. So I'm a rookie. And get involved. I'm excited.
Hey everybody, I'm Erin Thomas. Next week I'll celebrate 8 years of recovery. And so excited. Also been on probation first in my adult life. One day before. So, but it's been 8 years since I've been in recovery, 4 years in the field. Right now I'm working at the Connection for Sight. I'm the assistant director. And we're working closely with the schools. We've had Lambert and Denmark come in and work with us, which is really cool because we get to kind of see them. They see the people coming in from service, they see the people we're coaching, and they're like, oh, we better not go down that road. But they're enjoying coming and helping us. And we had done a code drive. We're working on a food drive with them, a hygiene drive, make sure that our unhoused peers have what they need for the cold weather. And looking forward to a lot of great stuff as the holidays involved.
I'm Susan Tanner. That's the mom of 2 drug addicts in Texas, and I mentor middle schoolers, and I belong to a mom's group that meets on Monday nights and support each other, which is fabulous. We need it.
Katie Lamberson, I'm the addiction track coordinator in the counseling program at University of North Georgia. We are recently accredited, so it makes us the only accredited addiction counseling program in the state of Georgia. And right now I have a group of students who are members of a group called the College Prevention Program, which is part of the Georgia Prevention Project. And they're this month on campus to raise awareness about drug abuse on college campuses.
Great.
Hi, I'm Gabby Brighton. I'm the substance prevention coach at the Academies of Creative Education, so Gateway and Forsyth Academy through the Insight program, and I'm also in recovery.
Great. And we're doing introductions. If you want to introduce yourself and why you're here, sir?
Yes, I was invited. I was invited from Leading Community Partners and coming. I'm basically in recovery. So for alcohol, I've been in recovery for 6 years. I've basically been sober for 6 years now, and that's me. So I was basically invited, and I'm here listening.
Glad you're here. All right, Zoom people, let's get started with Harrison.
Hey everybody, Harrison here with Realty for Recovery. Sorry I couldn't be there this morning, but probably gonna be there at the next meeting. For anybody who doesn't know, we do the Teacup Memorial is probably our most significant event that was started by Jennifer Hodge and Robbie Hodge, and I'm here today. Hope everyone's doing well.
Miss Smallwood.
Hey everyone, I'm Nancy Smallwood. I'm the grants manager for Forsyth County.
The lovely Janice.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Janice. I do the newsletter, and I heard a lot of great things that are going on that I was unaware of. And the purpose of the newsletter is to let people, from beyond who come to the meetings, those that can't come, let them know what's going on. So in particular, I picked up Amy Dykes from North Forsyth. If you could get in touch with me or just write a few little things and send it to me through email about the campaigns that you're working on. Also, Ashley Dickerson, the social media blog posting thing would make a great little article. These things do not have to be long. It's just a way for us as a council to document all the different things that our coalition members are doing to work in the prevention field and encourage healthy living, which is, part of what we do. And Lindsay, the Red Ribbon Week, especially if you have any pictures that you can share in the activities. I didn't get Miss Thomas's first name, but she mentioned working at Lambert in Denmark and a food drive. If y'all are doing any kind of activities, if you have flyers, just send me the flyers and I can put those in the newsletter and kind of, keep our coalition community, aware of what's going on. We've got a really good percentage of people that open the newsletter and look to see what's going on. It would be a way for you to quickly get your information out. So I just want to, encourage you to get in touch with me through email. Or
you can send anything that you guys have to me and I'll get it to Janice if that's easier.
Right.
Thanks,
Right.
Janice.
So y'all have a great morning. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Trouble Cleveland.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Tom Cleveland. I'm the school board representative and I'm a pitmaster, if you couldn't tell. Mainly here to give Rachel a bunch of grief, and that's my top priority, as well as prevention and love.
Miss Page.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paige Whalen. I'm the Director of Client Services over here at the place.
Welcome. Miss Julianne.
Good morning. I'm Julianne Sittler. I'm the community liaison at Lakeview Behavioral Health Hospital.
Officer Reuter.
Good morning, my name is Mike Reuter. I'm a sergeant with Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. I am assigned to our narcotics unit where I supervise our drug joint task force between Forsyth County and Johns Creek's Police Department.
Welcome. Miss Paula.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paula. I am an LCSW working as the Executive Director of Live Life Counseling's Level 2 program. We offer intensive outpatient substance use treatment to both adults and youth, 2 separate programs. And our program is trauma focused. So I'm also a person in recovery, coming up on about 12 years next month. Super excited about that. But I have both a lot of professional experience and personal experience with addiction and recovery, and always interested in supporting those seeking recovery. So in addition to our intensive outpatient programs, which we are trying to build right now, so if you have any questions or referrals, please send them our way. We also do drug screening. We have a lab that we send them to, as well as individual counseling, behavior aid services, visitation, individual counseling, family counseling, parenting classes, all sorts of stuff. So
awesome. Thanks, Paula. Miss Chelsea.
I'm Chelsea Clark. I'm the grant administrator for Forsyth County.
Thank you. And Miss Cindy, did you just join?
Yes, thank you. I'm Cindy Smith from Forsyth County Department of Family and Children's Services.
Awesome, thank you. So again, let's remember the point of these introductions are for you guys to listen to what each other does and then talk to each other and work with each other. And after the meeting, talk with each other and work with each other. Also a reminder, we have Narcan here. If anybody ever needs it, we always have it. I'll leave it out at the meeting so you guys can take what you need. We also have these boxes if you want them for your organization. So without further ado, first important announcement is what we've all been waiting for. Adam Miller got engaged last week. Okay, so Henry, you want to come up here? So this is Henry. Like you said, he is somebody in Forsyth in recovery. Started doing drugs and alcohol when he was young, got sober when he was young. So the point of him coming out today, Susan had requested us having somebody in recovery. I don't know if anybody here, people in recovery hopefully, have been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, but they tell their stories. Point is for connectability, inspiration. So he tells his story all the time in AA in the local community. And his story, I have not gotten to heard it, but being able to watch him, I know him very well, and it's got a miraculous story. So at the end, if you guys could ask questions that, you know, what are we doing right in our community? What can we be doing better in our community to kind of help our organizations from somebody from the source, you know? But the other point of this is, it's the month of November, and I think it'd be good for us to be reminded why we do what we do, because it's like this. So that being said, you got the floor, Henry.
Thank you so much. My name is Henry Kushner, and like I would say in the meetings that I typically go to, I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is October 15th of 2014. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. You know, the thing that's crazy is that whenever I first knew that my run had ended, I thought that the fact that I was going to end up and look at essentially a life in recovery, the rest of my life was going to be in recovery, was an awful thought to me. It felt like a death sentence, and I thought it was essentially the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I really couldn't get over the fact that this whole thing had happened. And I was incredibly wrong with that, because recovery is by far the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. You know, everything that I have today in my life is a result of recovery. I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have a family. I wouldn't be able to be here doing stuff like this. Nobody cared what I had to say in 2014. Trust me. And they didn't care for a really good reason, because I wasn't a trustworthy person. I wasn't really anything. You know, I just had, my dreams became shattered as a result of drugs and alcohol. And I wasn't born hopeless. You know, I was born with actually, I came here. I was born not specifically in Forsyth County, but I was born in an area called Freehome, if y'all know where that is. And so I was born right on the Cherokee County and Forsyth line. And I live in Forsyth County now, and I'm incredibly grateful to have grown up in this area. And before I get kind of started in my childhood, and then I'll go on to talk a little bit about my early addiction, the progression of my addiction, and then my early experience with recovery, and then what my life has looked like in recovery. I just wanted to tell you guys that I really appreciate everything that you do for our community. And again, I'm very grateful to be able to speak here today. So as I had mentioned, I grew up in Freehome, and I grew up on a horse farm out there, and I actually had a really awesome childhood. I come from a good family. My dad is he's a developer, and my mom worked for my dad for a long time. And yeah, I come from a great family, and yeah, I wasn't, you know, everybody has their story. Everybody has a different story. And that's the beautiful thing about recovery, is that we all come from different backgrounds, and there's a lot of commons and there's a lot of uncommons. And it just happened for me. My childhood was not nothing happened in my childhood to make me drink or use. You know, I can't really trace anything back to the fact that, well, since this event happened this is just my experience. Since this event happened in my childhood, this is why I started drinking. It wasn't like that, you know. So going through it, you know, one thing that when I was a kid, I always cared a lot about being cool. So that was definitely a big thing. You know, I did want to be in the spotlight. So today is, you know, a dream come true. Thank you, Rachel. That's not true, but it is true that I did care about that, you know, because when you're cool, you know, and I know that we've got like some people from education here and stuff, but it feels good to be cool in school, right? Like it was kind of a nice thing and it was something that I honestly cared way too much about. To be truthful with you, I cared more about, you know, having the girls and having friends at that age, you know, in middle school, high school, even maybe elementary school. I cared more about that than I did really my grades. So that's twisted, because now it's flip-flop. I don't care. I mean, honestly, like I'm here speaking today, and I hope that what I say helps. But if not everybody here falls in love with me, then that's completely fine, you know. But it used to be a thing like, gosh, I really hope they hear, you know, like what I'm saying. But now it's like, hey, I just carry the message and I tell you what I'm saying, and however that message is received, it's received. And so the reason that I talk a lot about that is because a cool thing to do, right, was, or what seemed as a cool thing to do, it's not a cool thing to do, but what I thought was a cool thing to do, and what the movies make it seem like a cool thing to do is to drink. And so, you know, when I tell my story, one thing that I remember pretty vividly is I remember being about 13 or 14 years old and seeing the movie Dazed and Confused, if you've ever seen that, with Matthew McConaughey. And, you know, they're all drinking beer, they've got these cool muscle cars, and you know, they're smoking a little something. And, you know, I thought that, and they had a bunch of girls around them and stuff. I said, man, you know, I remember that was freshman summer, and I said, I want to be like that guy. You know, those guys look pretty cool. And so I want to have that high school experience. And so that leads me to my first drink. And here's one point that I do really want to drive home about that first drink, is that in our book, you know, in the book of the big book, as we call it, in Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks a little bit about talks about an allergy, and then it talks about the obsession. And so what it basically says is that ingrained in me from the time that I was born, ingrained in me, I have an allergy to alcohol, and I have this mental obsession. And so that means that anytime that I put alcohol or any other substances in my body, because the substance doesn't really matter. I go into the jails a lot of times because we'll take AA meetings in there. And a lot of times the inmates will get so wrapped up on what the substance is. But in my experience, and a lot of others' experience, it doesn't really matter what the substance is. It matters the fact that I have this allergy and I have this obsession. And what that allergy means is that every time that I take alcohol and I put that into my body, there's a response that goes off. And that means that I just want more and more and more of that alcohol or whatever that other substance is. And I keep going and I keep going and I keep going until essentially I just end up passing out or blacking out or whatever it ends up being. And then the next day, I might have some consequences, right? I might have some consequences from what I did the day before. And so any normal drinker, because there's definitely a difference between a normal drinker and an alcoholic. Not everybody is an alcoholic, right? But I am. And so anytime, and I've got that allergy and I have that obsession, so I put that stuff in my, and you know, put that in my body, and I might have these consequences, right? Like I might go get a DUI, or I might just make my parents mad, or I might lose my girlfriend, or whatever it may be. I might have these consequences regardless of how good or bad they are. And then I swear to myself that I'm never going to drink again, right? Like I'm never going to do that ever again. And then guess what happens? 3 days later, or maybe that next night, that vision or that memory, it fades away. And so guess what I go do? I go do the same thing over and over again. And so I started drinking when I was 14 years old. And based off what I just said, I guess you could probably guess what happened. So the first time that I drank alcohol, I did not have half a glass of wine and then go eat a steak. You know, I went and I was 14 years old when I started drinking, and we had a guy, and he supplied us with this alcohol, and it was me and two of my friends, and we, again, I grew up on a farm, and so we went out near the woods, and I just remember the first time that I ever drank. I vividly remember the first time I ever drank. I was 14. I'm 32 years old now, so that was a long time ago, and I still vividly remember that. You know why? Because I liked it. You know what I mean? I liked it a lot. I liked it more than most people like it. I liked it in a very, very bad way, not in a good way. And so we started drinking beer, and then that led to alcohol. I mean, that led to liquor, and then they all ended up actually getting sick on the floor in my parents' bedroom, and they had a white carpet, and that was my first time I ever drank. I got caught. First time I ever drank, I got caught red-handed, and it was bad. And there was consequences from that. And you would think that at 14, I'd probably be like, hey, you know, I'm 14 years old, so I probably shouldn't do that again. And I'm not going to say I started drinking at that age the next day, but I remember about 3 weeks later, we went to a wedding, and then I started drinking there, and I got blitzed, and it just, it just kept going. It kept going on and on and on, you know, and typically when I share in our 12-step meetings, I don't always talk extensively about drinking history. And I tell you why. It's because our program is very solution based, but I do want to talk from a high level a little bit more today. I'm going to talk a lot about what recovery looks like, but I do want to talk somewhat of what this progression of this disease looks like, because it is a disease. Because like I said, I have this allergy and I have this obsession. And so if I've got it, I've got it. And, you know, I haven't had a drink in 9 years, but guess what? If I go and drink today, you know what would happen? Yeah, because I have this allergy, it would be absolutely catastrophic. It would be 10 times worse than it was before, because I've gone 9 years without drinking. And so I'll just make up lost time in one day. And it could be liquor, you know, it could be beer, it could be that BS that they sell at the gas station these days. It could be enter the substance. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it alcoholically, and I'm going to have severe consequences. And just because I've had some time off of drinking and drug use, it doesn't mean that my alcoholism has gone away. You know, there's no cure for addiction, but there is a beautiful life of recovery. And that's what I've gotten as a result of that. And what I mean by there's no cure, that means that I'll never be able to find a way to do this normally, to drink normally or use drugs normally. And I don't want to at this point. I thought that I wanted, that's what I wanted. I just wanted to figure out, hey, how do I do this like normal people do? How do I go to a Braves game and have 2 or 3 beers? That's what I wanted to try and figure out. And those thoughts of trying to figure that out and win the game, of becoming a normal drinker, almost killed me. You know, and unfortunately it killed a lot of other people. And so that was the drinking. And then, you know, through high school, it ended up, the consequences didn't get too horrible throughout high school. But around 17 years of age, you know, and again, I want to drive this point home too, is that at 17 years of age, I had let's just call it, long story short, I had an injury, drinking related injury. And I ended up going to a doctor's office, and I was 17, right? And I had a really bad burn on my arm. And so that's when the doctor prescribed me pain medication for that. And one of the things that my dad, you know, one of the things that my dad thinks about that experience is, like, he thinks that if he just would have never taken me to that doctor, I would have never been addicted, which is complete BS, because of just what I said. If I didn't get it from a doctor, I would have gotten it from somebody else. I was already drinking alcoholically when I was 17, so it didn't matter, you know? So pointing the finger at this guy just for prescribing me something, in my case, you know, was not the reason I became an addict. Was just because this one guy prescribed me a low dose of pain medication because I had significant pain. That wasn't what happened to me. You know, it was on me, right? Because I was born that way. And as soon as he gave it to me, I knew where that was going. You know, I had heard the stories, and my friends were already doing it. I graduated high school in 2009, and at that time, that was, you know, the Oxycontin and all that other stuff was absolutely everywhere. I mean, that was the point where it was just like all over the place. I would say it was just as readily available on the street as it was, as marijuana was. And so I got home and I took what I would call an alcoholic dose, not a dose as prescribed. I took an extra dose of this pain medication, and that was my first experience with opiates. And, you know, it was an I had arrived experience. It's like they say in our book, you know, it was something where I had really been searching for this feeling and this comfort. And the best way that I can relay the message of how that felt to me was, you know, I've always been like a car guy, and I've always liked dirt bikes and that kind of stuff. And I remember when I was 6 years old, I got my first dirt bike on, and I just felt this rush, like just, I'm gonna wake up every morning at like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm gonna get on this dirt bike and ride it. And that's what I did, and I was so excited about it, and I wanted to go get the helmet that matches my bike and all this stuff. And I was 6 years old on this little 70 bike, and that was how I felt when I first started using opiates, was like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm gonna do. This is what I want to do. So I had all these ambitions, and those ambitions didn't fade away the moment that I started drinking or started doing opiates, but they surely became way less important. So getting the job and graduating college and doing all those things, all those aspirations were still there. And I would tell you that I was going to go do all these things, and I was going to be successful, and I was going to graduate college, magna cum laude, and do all these other things. And I would tell my friends at the bar that, right? But my priorities weren't showing. I wasn't displaying. I wasn't taking the action of doing these things, because, what was more important to me was finding that same feeling that I had found through the drugs and alcohol, as I had mentioned. And so I then graduated from high school, and I went off to college at the University of Alabama. And it was, they talk about how this is a progressive disease, and that's exactly my story. And honestly, for most people who are in recovery, they have the same experience. It didn't get better. It didn't ever got like, oh man, my drinking got way better as the years went on. I mean, it just got so much better, and things got so good that I just decided that one day I was going to go to rehab, just as a quick little getaway, and then I was going to join Alcoholics Anonymous, because when I was 4 years old, I just dreamt of being, a guy at AA. I mean, that wasn't my goal by any chance or anything. I mean, it was progressive. And so the bar just kept getting lower. So whatever I thought I would never do before, then I would do. And then I would move the bar down a little bit lower. So like, hey, I'll never ever steal money from my parents. Okay, we'll start off with stealing $5 from my parents, and then now it goes to 50, and then now it all of a sudden it becomes okay, And it wasn't because I didn't love my parents or anything like that. It's because I was sick. I was sick. I was completely wrapped up in this disease of addiction. And the way that I see it is, I'm a totally different person now. And I say that because I'm still the same guy, right? But alcohol and drugs, it made me a different person. I became somebody who I really was not. All those things that I did during that, I know we've got a law enforcement officer on here. I'm happy to say I've not been arrested in sobriety, thank God. I mean, I actually have never even come close to doing that. But when I was out there drinking and drugging, I definitely did, and I couldn't believe that. I remember the first time that I got arrested, I couldn't believe that it had gotten to this, because like I said, this just started off as like a little high school thing. And then that led to just parties in high school, and then parties in college and all these other things. And now I'm getting like some severe consequences. So I'm at the University of Alabama, as I mentioned, and the first year I'm okay, maybe a 3.0 GPA. And then the next year that GPA drops. And so does as my GPA drops, there's a direct correlation to my addiction increases, and so grades got worse, and all these other commitments and all these other things that I wanted to do. I had all kinds of stuff that I wanted to do, like had career ambitions, and I was serious with golf, and I had all these things that I love to do. And I love my family, and I love being around them, and all these things, they just stopped. And the only thing that I did every day was I'd wake up in the morning, and then I realized, well, I need to go and figure out how to feel normal, because I was so deep into my addiction at that time. I was completely removed. Like, I was no longer like a functioning human being. I was no longer a productive member of society. I was contributing nothing to the GDP. I was taking away everything from the GDP, and I became like a menace to society. And I was baffled, to be honest with you. I was completely baffled by the fact that I had become this person, and that would be going on in my mind, that I had become this person. I couldn't believe it, because this disease, like it says, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. I mean, it is brutal. It is brutal, absolutely brutal. And so that just kept getting worse and worse. And after 4 years at Alabama, I didn't graduate. I moved back home. I went back to Alabama, and I did graduate in sobriety, thank God, which is awesome. But I didn't graduate at that time. I went back home, and we came up with some BS game plan of how I was going to get my stuff together. My parents were just incredibly worried. They were just incredibly worried, as they should have been, because I was just knocking on death's door. I was 20, 21, 22 years of age at that time, and I could have just been at any moment, really. Especially nowadays, there's no way I'd be alive if I was out there this day and age. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not God, I can't predict, but it's awful, and so I was back home, and I was trying to work a little bit, and then I was taking classes at Kennesaw, but really what I was doing is my disease was just getting worse and worse. I was becoming worse, and then finally, the day came where I had the arrest, where I was driving. I got a DUI, and I had a felony possession of substance stuff. So then
You can say.
and so I pleaded it. But anyways, so then I got to jail, and I realized for that one that this is real. Like this is not a joke anymore. Like I'm a complete failure is how I felt. And so I ended up striking a deal, basically, like if I go off to treatment, then I would be able to get out of jail. And so I bonded out, and I went to Ridgeview is where I went. And at that time I was 22 years of age, and I got a little bit of an introduction to recovery. And it was one of those things where I really fought at first, because I think the concept was just so scary to me. Like, hey, I'm 22 years old. I'll never have a normal life ever again. It's honestly, it's a logical thought. I don't think there's any like thought of that somebody should be ashamed of. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you feel that way. I mean, that's a big thought to think that, like, hey, I'm never gonna be in society's eyes in some ways, especially, I mean, right now I work in a very highly judgmental industry, and I go to these cocktail parties and stuff, and because I have to, because there's clients there, and there's only so much that I can avoid, right? I've been sober 9 years, and I have a purpose of being there, so it's fine. But a lot of times I do get the question of, hey, why aren't you drinking? And sometimes I'll just say I don't drink, and that's the end of the conversations. And other times people extend it. And I don't like that, but it's a reality. I have to be prepared to go out and do those things at some point, because I can't just stay at my house. And we're in a society that's centered around a lot of alcohol use in our country. And so at some point I do have to be put my big boy pants on and be able to go out in the world and live a life as everybody else does. But that doesn't mean that I go hang out at bars by any means. I don't do that, but there's sometimes where I have to go and be around drinking, and that thought of just, hey, I'm never going to be able to go have a beer again. Like, how am I going to ever get a girlfriend if I go and then I have to tell her of this dark past and all these other things? And so after being at Ridgeview for about 30 to 60 days, and then I did about 30 days at a halfway house, the thought that I had convinced myself because I never got into the program, meaning I never got plugged into AA during that time. I never got a sponsor. I never prayed. I never cared about seeking a higher power. And I never did any of those things. I just was the chairman of my own recovery. You know, I was trying to manage my own life, and it didn't work out very well at all. And so after about 90 days, you know, I had convinced myself that the opiates were the problem. Like that was the main issue was just this opiate use. And so if I can go and drink alcohol. And so that's what I had convinced myself of. And I didn't even, be honest with you, I didn't even make it to the alcohol. Like I just went straight back after convincing myself that I was just gonna hey, I'm just gonna do this. I think like once somebody realizes that they're going to relapse and they really have already convinced themselves, because the relapse is a long drawn out process. It's not like, hey, I'm working this incredible program, right? Like I'm sponsoring 20 guys, I'm doing all this service work. I am going to 7 meetings a week. I'm talking to people on the phone all the time. And then I just was driving home and I got triggered and I stopped at the liquor store and then I got drunk and then I got arrested. Now I'm looking at 10 years in prison. Like that's not how it goes. That's not what I've never seen that before. What happens is that what usually happens is that people start to get their life back in order, right? So they start getting things. And so they like the biggest one is for men in the program is like once they get their life back. I've sponsored so many guys, they get their wife back and then they get the job back and then they get credit, right? Like they get the credit. Oh my gosh, you've been sober 1 year, like, and you got a job, and you're married again. Like, gosh, you're just a saint. You're such a saint. And then they're like, well, I don't need those meetings anymore, right? Like, I don't need to be sponsoring anybody. I don't need to be doing service work. When Rachel asked me to do something like this, I don't need to go do that. I gotta go to work. Like this stuff's not important to me anymore. And then all of a sudden, then the event happens. For me, it was. I stayed sober through it, but life happens. I was diagnosed with cancer a year ago. And so I went through that in recovery and it was brutal, but thank God I had a program, and I stayed sober through that. And not only did I stay sober, I actually was able to experience some peace through cancer, because of recovery, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because of God, but like if I would have gotten diagnosed with cancer and I wasn't working your program and I wasn't sponsoring anybody, I didn't have a sponsor, I wasn't going to meetings, I wasn't doing all these things, then I would have relapsed for sure. So it's like, it really is up to me, and like, there's no like essentially babying, like no babying me would have helped me when I came into the program. Because after the relapse and stuff, I went back to a place in Tennessee called a Discovery Place, and it was a 12-step base, men's spiritual retreat, as they call it. But really what it was a big book boot camp. The big book is the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they loved me while I was there, but it was hard love. And they were very, very honest with me. They would say things that helped me, like, hey, Henry, I see that you're doing the same stuff that you were doing before, but now you're just not drinking. How do you think that's going to work out for you? Because, I talked to your mom yesterday and she's having trouble sleeping, worrying about if you're going to overdose or not. So, how is your plan working out for you? They didn't sit me on their lap and say, oh my gosh, you know what? Everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything is actually not going to be okay for me unless I get plugged into the program and I actually do some work, and so that's what I did, is I had enough of a rock bottom to get this willingness, the willingness, it was on me. There's nothing that my parents could have said to me at that time until I became willing to want to change. There was nothing that they could have said to me that would have been like right there. And then all of a sudden that alcoholism period of my life became a distant memory. It wasn't like that. I had to hit these bottoms and I had to hit them multiple times over and over and over again until I realized that, hey, my way doesn't work. God's way does. And And in the way of the 12 steps in my views, because like I said, that's what I'm a part of, that they work. And so I got a sponsor and he took me through these 12 steps. And then I started sponsoring other guys. And then I was able to, then I realized, you know what, maybe that's the reason I'm here. You know, like I said, I have stuff going on in my life outside of recovery. But maybe this is why I'm here. Maybe this is why I'm spared, you know, so I can help other people, you know. Maybe that's my whole purpose. And if this is my whole purpose, that doesn't mean that I can't have a career and I can't have a family. Doesn't mean that I need to be Mother Teresa, you know, and be floating around like the entire world and just and like, you know, oh, I can't work today because I've got to go and deal. It doesn't mean that. It just means that like I can have this part of my life, but maybe that's why I'm here, you know. And then I started to find a purpose in life, and then I started to find the gift of recovery, you know, because it's a journey. I mean, I've had incredible things happen in recovery, incredible things. Incredible. I'm not going to sit here and pat my own back about stuff that I've accomplished during recovery, but there's been incredible things. And like this life that God has given me is so cool. Like I watch the leaves fall and I enjoy that. And I'm not on LSD and I'm watching that and I'm saying that's incredibly beautiful. Like that's God. I didn't used to see that in my life. And it's so cool. Like seeing Rachel with her kid, you know, like that's just so cool. Right. And I like enjoy seeing that. And I'm not worrying about, hey, I need to, because they came over to our house, you know, and I wasn't like, hey, I need to find a way to get them out of here so I can go and meet my narcotic salesman, you know. It wasn't like that at all. It's like, gosh, let's enjoy this moment. This is precious. You know, I've known her for like 9 years and now it's so cool. You know, like stuff like that. And you multiply that over 9 years. And that's been my experience with this stuff. And so it truly is a gift. And that's the thing that I try to tell the new people in the program. It's like, if I would have known what life would really look like as a member of recovery, if I would have known exactly what this experience would have really been early on, I think I would have, you know, hopped onto it. Like I would have been attracted to it because I wasn't attracted to it at first. But it's a great lesson for me because I know that I'm not right. And so that's how I wake up every day. It's like, hey, I don't know what's right and I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if the fact that, you know, I had cancer is a good thing or a bad thing, right? And so maybe it's just a plant and like maybe it leads to something better, like my recovery has. So it's such a blessing and it's such a beautiful way to live. And the last thing that I'll wrap it up with is like, you know, kind of going back to my earlier statement. It's like, yeah, you know, I've got 9 years in recovery and that's an absolute miracle. And I can come up here and I can talk, right? It's easy to talk, but to live it is a whole different thing, you know, and that's where the key is for me. Like, as soon as I stop not talking about it, but as soon as I stop living it, then that's when I become very, very prone or very, very capable of picking up that drink, you know, because like I said, I'm not cured of alcoholism. It's not a curable thing for me. So they say in the program, which I'm sure everybody in here has heard, you know, this program is one day at a time. And it really is. It's one day at a time. I mean, life is one day at a time. There's good days and there's bad days. But life is such a blessing. And it's like such a privilege. So that's all I've got. And thank you so much for giving me the time to listen to my spiel. So I really appreciate it.
We have a couple minutes for questions. I knew it was gonna be Ashley first. Ashley, shoot 'em.
So my son is 21 now, and your story literally sounds so similar to his. Only I actually handed him the opioid at 17. Only he had rock bottom earlier than he did. So he had rock bottom at 19. What he'll tell me, I kicked him out, and that is I didn't know that he was using drugs, so that was his wake up moment. When you are predispositioned for addiction, which he is, He described the same thing you did about the fire and the, wow, this feels great, right? And it does run in my family. What can any of us do to help intercept that and determine the difference between somebody like me who can have a glass of wine and somebody who actually might have an addiction problem early? That's what I'd like to see, is how do we get in front of that to find a joy in all of the other activities. You grew up on a farm. My son grew up in Forsyth County and had more enrichment things going on. Keep him busy, keep him busy. Well, I kept him busy. He ended up, addicted to drugs. So that's not always the answer. And parents think if you just keep them busy with activities, they'll be safe. They're not safe. Only you can keep yourself safe. And I'm understanding that now, but I don't know what the school system or what the parents can do to get ahead of that. Do you have any advice?
I mean, I think that's the whatever $1 billion industry that recovery is questioning, right? Is like, this is such a complicated disease. And I would love to give you some tremendous, philosophical answer on exactly one word of what schools could do, or what law enforcement could do, or what the government could do, or what parents could do, or what friends could do. And I'm not sure that there's a real answer to that. I would say that if there's anything, like I'm involved in the, just say, like, I compete in the sport of powerlifting, and so I'm in the gym a lot, and I am around a lot of young guys that are in there. And so what I try to do is, when I'm in there and then I see, like, hey, it's a Friday night and this kid's 18 years old and it's like 9:30 and he's sitting in the gym and he's with me, and like, I'll tell him, like, hey man, this is awesome that this is how you're spending the time. Instead of at some party with underage drinking, you're here in this gym and you're doing this, and you've got something to focus on, and you've got some drive, and you have some ambition of something that you want to accomplish, and that's what your target is and what you're going after. And that's going to help you a lot to stay away from those environments that are not healthy. Because I do think that's one big thing is, the peer pressure stuff, I do think is a real thing, and so I think that if they stay surrounded by a bunch of really good people, and they find happiness by being around those people, then I think that will certainly help them to stray away from going down the wrong path. I really do. But it's I think a lot of it does have to do with, they say, like, hang with the winners, but then again, it's just, there's always those bad eggs, and there's always people out there who are doing the wrong thing. And sometimes people are just attracted to seeing what that life is about, because, like I said, kind of in my story, it wasn't that I thought the fact that getting arrested would be cool. I didn't think that at all. I thought that, like, hey, being at this party, drinking with these girls, and, like, me being around all the cool kids, that was kind of what attracted me to that lifestyle, if that makes sense. And then the last thing I will say, just to wrap it up, is like, people like Rachel and myself and the other people in recovery here, like, maybe whenever a parent or somebody does see a point of they're starting to go down this path that may not, and it's early on, maybe just say, hey, why don't you go and grab coffee with this guy, and it being somebody that maybe you see me up here today, right? And, like, whoever, your y'all's children is or something, you don't really think he would relate to somebody like me. Well, then don't get me, get somebody who you think that he might relate with, and having that conversation, it could potentially help. So.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Yeah. I think being your own person, can help you succeed in life, because because you have to understand that life is not going to change because you change. And I've always told people that, because maybe you go in a gas station, you're still going to see alcohol, you're still going to see it. So what you've got to do is understand that during those moments, I've got to encourage myself to be a better person, and I've got to set my higher standards up for myself, because nobody's going to do it for me. And I know that's hard, and like, oh my gosh, but that's what you got to do. You got to basically say that I want to be a better person. I don't want to be that person anymore. And you have to look at that and say, I'm gonna walk over here to the Gatorades, y'all have a nice day, you know? And I've been able to do that, and I'm very proud of that. And my point is that you have to set yourself up for positivity. Because if you constantly just say, well, I can't do this, or I'm this, or I'm that, then you're not gonna make it. You're going to fail. Because I can say that because it's happened to me more than once. So that's why I learned that I have to set myself up for positivity, whether I'm around negative people or if I'm around positive people, because I can't make those people be positive. Because I live in my home. Some of my family still drinks because I have alcoholics in my family. But I don't judge them because what they do is what they do. The way I look at it is I was no different than they were. When I was in my addiction, I didn't need nobody telling me that you don't need to do this, blah, 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 blah. So what I'm doing is try to be a light to them, and try to understand that I can't make them change. I have to be a light. I have to overcome, and I have to use my positivity, and I just don't do what they do. I mean, to be honest with you, I could go home right now, it's in my refrigerator, but I don't want that for my life anymore. So I don't mess with it. And I have the encouragement here and everywhere else to not do it, but I don't hate on people that still do it because I've been there and I know how it feels to have somebody tell you that you're bad because of what you're doing. It hurts. And because I've sat in my room and cried before because I didn't know how to change it, sorry. But I've learned that by getting on people's level, when you're talking to somebody with an addiction, that still has an addiction, it has made tremendous, for my life. It made me realize where I used to be, and I'm not that person anymore. And it makes me feel good to realize that I had the gift to maybe help somebody. And, and I don't know, it changes my life and helps other people. So, my point is that sometimes you have to encourage yourself that people are not going to do it for you. You have to do it on your own, and that's hard. And that's a hard lesson to learn, but I can't expect people to say, great job, Mitchell, all the time. I gotta say in my heart, good job, I'm doing good. Because nobody's gonna do it for me when I'm in those bad places, but or when I'm speaking to somebody that's doing bad, I'm like, you know what, man, you're not a bad person, you're making bad decisions. You're not, nobody is bad because they're high on drugs or whatever, they're making bad decisions. And that's exactly what I did, is make bad decisions. And I made a change to those bad decisions, and I'm a better person, but I'm no better than they are. And that is why other drug addicts, I have to say, respect me when I talk to them because of that reason, because I get down to their level. I remember one day I was talking to somebody, and I was sitting in his house talking to him, and he was tired and tired. And I knew he was. I'm not stupid. I knew he was. And I turned around and treated him with the same respect I give myself. Because you know what? He can change just like I did. And maybe what I tell him maybe not help him. So you have to just look at your gift, look at where you've been in life, and say, you know what? I've been where you're at. I've seen what you've seen. I'm no better than you. And that'll help you, help you understand people that are in addiction. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, I think that's a great note to end on. And I think the takeaway is all of us here, we're all being of service, and that's what's helpful is to go out and to be selfless by purpose. And we're all here in a very important role. So that being said, any other questions you have for Henry, we can do as we close, but meeting adjourned.
Thank you so much. You're what I was trying to step kids would be.
You're pretty good with numbers.
Anyway, it's great tonight. You said something about what do you do, please? So anyways, he's trying to figure out where that's going.
Right.
So he's. Right now. So, yeah. But she was.
Family stuff. It's just basically exactly what I said. You know, yeah, like you keep control that, like you said, it's at the same time, your mother. Right. Right.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, nice job, man.
So that's kind of where.
That's good, yeah.
So I got the phone.
Maybe that sound really familiar. But yeah, I was gonna say too. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head.
I think it's the. What programs things I recognize?
The November one.
Daughters. AGA graduating. I'm here if she's trying to ask. Well, she tells me that she wants. Because now I'm like, it's really. Shut up.
You know, the one thing that the consequences, like you said, like the amount of. I actually don't want to, I didn't want to, because like our conditions is definitely a whole other topic and that's. Yeah, it is, but I mean, like, the fact that when I got, you know, like, that was a big deal for me, the reality of that. So the fact that they're out there, was that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that like the boycott? Right. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've never been thinking on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Raising the kids. Instead of giving freaking.
Yeah.
So that you don't think you can just jump that on.
I think consequences is a big thing. I mean, like, you ask about the school system, I would say like harsh consequences is a big thing. You know? Right. It's not, I mean, it doesn't, it's not gonna work for everybody, right? Because some people just never register, but for me, that would work. Yeah. When I was probably 18, I got served at 20. I just turned 20. So probably around, I would say really between around 20 and 21 is when I really started realizing this is an issue. And my parents had issues. I mean, they hadn't realized that this was an issue too. And so there was a lot of bad times within our house because of that. But it still lasted about 2 years until I was rock bottom. You know what I mean? No, I know. But what I'm saying though is for me is that even though I knew all that was going on, I was so wrapped in my addiction that I cared, but I wasn't ready because I was still just, you know. But also the last thing is like, again, I realized that how beautiful life this life is covered really is.
Church shopping, the ministry over around the for 11 years. He was raised that way, like, you know, it's all this. What happened? I don't wonder, I don't feel guilty. I gave him this first, so I feel like it was gonna happen someday.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take it.
that's what I said. That's why,
You know,
that's what I was talking about that doctor.
I mean, it wasn't a matter of like, you would have been saying, I'm sorry, what? Anyone else? They just had done with it. We've been doing this. And I'm very honored all these morning assistants and just we were talking about the control. I'm telling this time, I'll show you my picture of my son as a senior. His eyes, he looks like everybody else is getting for something. Very handsome.
Yeah.
You know, he looks like I'm the executive with AT&T. It's not about every game, every practice. I was always there. I was always. I could just did. You know, and I didn't have the demons in his head. My daughter did. What happened, you know, and I just, so I didn't feel like there's anything like about parents recognize it earlier, because I don't know that they're being recognize it earlier, yeah, schools, and I didn't.
I know. It's tough. Because I mean, the thing is that you can, then you can force somebody to go to treatment, but again, exactly.
That's why he's.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you sharing.
Well, thank you so much. Very nice talking to you. Thank you.
You know, to kind of go through, kind of like Montgomery or I don't know, there's that route where you go Columbus and try. Somehow we didn't go by it. My sister-in-law didn't. But I don't know, but he's had like.
I just have like country sponge still.
Why is there a new staff member?
Oh, thank you.
I think I got it. But I was like, that's Gabby.
You're the officer.
Like that.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
I was like, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like.
No, it was good. You saw all the things there.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
My dog is here. Yeah.
Never grow it up.
Oh, it's coming, man.
It's
slowly but surely. Look at your time.
You know, it looks so bad. Did you see what it
Right.
I just goes by, yeah. Well, it's actually, I want to see. So there was that, like, honestly, he said it, like, we could stay on this all. I wanted to, like, today, find it, like, thinking that we're in it, but I was definitely.
I did, but don't ignore. Yeah. I'm gonna be. I'm going to bridge. And help my addiction. So I really don't go to like specific alcohol stuff anymore. It's more like help me to do my. And also on the other hand, right? Everybody not being I'm not. When I'm speaking to somebody.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna explain there, but no. I realized we're gonna be trained for me, I'm gonna they make it. I hate to say it. Training the family. But we didn't. That's gonna be in the store.
Yeah, I draw the big dogs and then I.
Peace out.
So.
Thank you, I appreciate it very much.